We'll begin. Welcome to the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors AM meeting Thursday, June the 4th, 9 a.m. A recording device will be in use during this meeting. We will open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, public comment for agenda items. Rules for conduct of public meetings established by Resolution 2001-08. The time allocated to each individual making a comment shall be 3 minutes unless otherwise set by the presiding officer. Additional public comment may be granted at the discretion of the presiding officer at the conclusion of the meeting. Now, I understand that many of you may be here for agenda item related to the draft ordinance. So what we'd like to do is when we get to that part of the meeting, Luke will make a presentation and then we will take public comment at that time. Is there anyone that wants to make public comment on anything else on the agenda? Yes, please. Come up to the podium, give us your name and address.
My name is Antoinette Fabrizio. I'm one of the residents of the Mapleview community. Just something to put out there again. We talked about speeding concerns within the community on Glory Maple in particular. That is the road that has not been dedicated yet because I'm also newly on the board as well, so I have an insight into things with Michael. I guess I'm just putting it out there to discuss later.
Yeah, we'll bring that up later in the meeting for non-agenda items.
Okay. Like maybe late
It'll be towards the end of the meeting for public comment on non-agenda items.
Perfect.
All right?
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Annette. Okay, so we will move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Does anyone have any comments on the meeting minutes from the previous month of May 21st?
I make a motion to approve the May 21st meeting.
I have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Treasurer's report, authorization to pay bills and approve payroll. Any questions on the payroll and authorization to pay bills?
Go ahead and make the authorization to pay the bills.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, nothing under old business. New business. We have Chief Yankanich. You're in.
Thank you, Chairman. First thing on my list is I'm requesting permission to purchase 2 new patrol vehicles. It's a budgeted item. One's going to be a Ford SUV to replace one of our current SUVs. Pricing has been attached in your packet. The trade-in will be a current patrol vehicle. The trade-in value is $7,000. Upon looking at municipal bids for similar vehicles, they've been selling between $6,600 and $8,100. My recommendation is to take the $7,000 trade-in. It's going to be a savings by the time we pull the stickers off the car and have it decommissioned. The total price with the $7,000 trade-in for the Ford Explorer will be $40,414. The second vehicle is a F-150 to replace our existing 2019 F-150. We do like to maintain one pickup in the fleet for hauling of large items, for charity events, evidence, things such as that, pound bicycles. The trade-in on our existing F-150 is $15,000, bringing the total purchase price of this vehicle to $34,890. Again, I checked municipal bid websites. They're selling for significantly less than municipal bid, around $10,000. So that's a fair trade-in price. The purchase will be through New Holland Ford. And what else did I? And both of these are CoStar quotes.
All right. So I'll start with questions. So we will be trading in the Explorer, and it sounds like that's going to work out better than to put it on municipal bid.
Yes.
And then for the truck, we are going to put that on municipal bid.
Trade it in.
Trade it in?
Trade-in's
Okay.
$5,000 more than the last average 3 similar pickups sold on
municipal bid.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have those printouts if you like, Chairman.
That's fine. All right, so these vehicles, what mileages do these existing vehicles have? I mean,
Well,
and
the current mileage on the Explorer is 85,000. It's going to take around 6 to 7 months to be built, so it'd be 95 to 100,000 estimated at time of trade-in. The trade-in for the F-150 is currently at $70,000. It would be around $75,000 and $80,000. I'm aware that's a little lower than our normal, but it is a 2019. We've had significant repairs, and the mechanic has warned us of other significant repairs coming soon.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions related to this? Okay, having no questions, do I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the vehicle purchases for the police department.
Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Oh, one other thing before we vote. This was budgeted
Yes,
and
sir. It
approved
is
in
budgeted.
our budget.
Yes, they're both approved in budget.
And if I may also contribute to
Yes.
that dialogue, spending authority for the township manager has been established, previous discussion of the board, and that is up to $10,000 for previously budgeted items. We're using the same principle in putting it on your agenda today. While it is budgeted, it is in excess of $10,000, and so we've elected to put it on your budget for your consideration, given prior direction, at least to me, about my spending authority.
Thank you, Luke, for bringing that up.
All right. Okay, so we got a motion, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, Jeff.
I believe that's going to be me again. In your packet, you'll see a proposed contract consolidation for Axon. Axon provides us our in-car camera, our body cams, and the cloud storage for all video capture. Currently, Axon has around 85% of market share for this type of service and equipment. We're currently have 2 years left on our contract. I reached out to Axon. We had a discussion about renewing the contract early for an additional 5 years, which would take us out to 2032. If we're willing to sign this contract, it would include 2 equipment refreshes, so everything stays under warranty to mitigate repair costs. And there's some savings proposed for the next 2 years of our current contract. Those savings will be $9,181.26 for the next 2 years, and a total 5-year savings of locking in at the current pricing of $47,645.69. In short, we will be changing no equipment. It will be the same equipment, just newer, which has served us quite well as an agency. We've had minimum, if any, issues with it, and will provide the community the same service of having our actions and our officers have body-worn in-car cameras. So at this time, I'm proposing authority to sign the contract renewal and extension for Axon body-worn camera equipment as cloud storage. That would take us out to 2032.
Okay, so I'll start out with just one question. So the proposed net pricing that we're approving is for $131,797.67. Is that correct?
For the total 5-year term.
Okay, for the 5-year term, with the savings of the $9,100 that you had indicated earlier.
For 27 and 28 would be the
Okay.
savings, yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions related to this matter?
But just to clarify, overall, we're actually saving more over the 5 years because we're locking in the rate for 2028 instead of getting the actual annual increases that typically occur every year.
Yes, the 5-year savings is estimated to be a little over $47,000.
Right. So we're saving the $9,000 and some dollars for this year.
2
and
years, 2 years.
2028, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
2027 and 2028, and then we're saving an
Yes.
additional $47,600.
Yeah, the 27 and 28 are actual savings because
Yeah.
we're under a current contract, so they're easier to calculate. The other 3 years are estimated savings based on price increase and locking in at this rate.
Yep. And you mentioned they have 85% of the market share, and so therefore it's not likely that we would want to change.
It would be highly unlikely that anyone could compete with them pricing or equipment wise, yes.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we execute and extend the contract with Axon for the PD body worn cameras.
Do we have to get a second on that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, subdivision and zoning applications, there are none. We will move on to ordinances and resolutions for consideration. A referral of draft ordinance regarding data center uses for Chester County Act 247 review. This will go to Luke, and he will take from here.
morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm cognizant this morning that not only are there members of the audience who are interested in this issue, but there may also be people watching this YouTube video, which will be posted. And I want to take a moment to provide a little background on this issue before the board deliberates on a potential action item. I've chosen as my first slide a basic split between what's on the agenda and what's not on the agenda. And I think it's important that we discuss this because it speaks to the township's communication with residents. What is not on the agenda today are the applications of 500 ER EBY Trust for a curative amendment and a validity challenge. The reason that is not on the agenda is because the township must receive testimony and evidence on those applications in a hearing format similar to a courtroom, and that you will be asked to function in a capacity of a judge based on that evidence to make a determination about their claims. Their claims are twofold. One, that the township does not currently permit data centers in East Brandywine Township. And secondly, that their proposed curative amendment would allow data centers by right in the R2 residential district. Now, what is on the agenda today is a draft amendment to the Code of East Brandywine Township regarding data centers. Potential action today includes forwarding the draft to the Chester County Planning Commission for their comment. This action is commonly known as Act 247 review. I'm going to have on this slide a few primary sources for anyone who's interested in cross-referencing what I'm talking about with particular primary sources discussing the same subject. There are 4 links on this page. One is to the municipality's planning code. The municipality's planning code is the enabling legislation that gives municipalities the power to implement zoning. In order to use the power of zoning, municipalities must abide by the conditions set in the municipality's planning code. The municipality's planning code is a piece of state legislation, not local legislation. The next record I'd like to provide a link to as a primary source is the Code of East Brandywine Township. The Code of East Brandywine Township is in fact a local code, and it consists of ordinances adopted by this body, the Board of Supervisors. The next document, I think it's important for the purposes of this dialogue, is East Brandywine Township's zoning map. The zoning map subdivides the township into multiple zones, and within those zones there are rules that apply to the uses allowed in those zones. And then lastly, as a primary resource, I would like to share a link to the draft code revisions. This is the draft that existed prior to last night's meeting before the Planning Commission. I'm going to go away from this slide. The people watching at home have the advantage of being able to scroll back to this to see those URLs, but they're about to go off the screen. I want to start with what a curative amendment is. A curative amendment is a process established by the municipality's planning code that allows a property owner to challenge the validity of a zoning ordinance. Typically, the applicant alleges that the ordinance does not prevent a lawful use anywhere in the municipality. The applicant may also submit a proposed amendment. This proposed amendment is what's called the curative amendment. It is intended to address the alleged issue. The curative amendment process concerns the zoning ordinance itself. It is not a land development application. There are no detailed construction or engineering approvals to review. I'm going to quote directly from a publication from the Department of Economic and Community Development, specifically the Governor's Center for Local Government Services, and a publication called Zoning Planning Series Number 4, 10th edition. According to Pennsylvania court doctrine dating back as far as the 1960s, municipal zoning ordinance must provide for and may not exclude from the municipality all lawful uses of land. Failure to provide for a lawful use is an exclusionary and grounds for a legal challenge for which relief to permit the use as and where proposed. I want to talk a bit about what the Planning Commission and what the Planning Commission did last night. The Planning Commission serves as an advisory body to this Board of Supervisors. One of the Planning Commission's responsibilities is to review the township's zoning regulations and recommend amendments when appropriate. The Commission may study new or evolving land uses and evaluate whether changes to our zoning code should be considered. As part of its ongoing responsibilities, the Planning Commission has been evaluating how data center uses may be addressed within East Brandywine Township's zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission's review of zoning regulations is a normal part of the township's planning process. What is in the draft ordinance before you today? The draft ordinance defines what a data center is. The draft ordinance permits the use of a data center as a conditional use in the township's light industrial zone. The township's light industrial zone is called CSLI. The draft ordinance describes supplemental regulations. These are regulations in addition to rules that apply to all land developments for the use of a data center that include but are not limited to size, lot size, and setbacks for the use. Visual impact mitigation. The draft ordinance requires an energy use plan. The draft ordinance regulates generators and generator use. The draft ordinance requires public connection or connection to a public water supply. Does not require on-lot like a well. It requires the applicant to submit a thermal mitigation plan. It requires the applicant to submit an electronic waste plan, and it regulates noise and vibration. Now, public participation is important, but I would like to set some expectations on things that we will comment on and what we cannot comment on because of the nature of the pending public hearing. If you would like to comment on the pending curative amendment application, the appropriate place to do so would be the hearing when it is scheduled. If you would like to discuss whether the current zoning ordinance provides for data center uses, likewise, the appropriate place for that dialogue is the public hearing. If you would like to opine on the applicant's proposed amendment, the appropriate place to discuss is the hearing. Where you are in the right place at the right time right now is to discuss how the township should regulate data centers in the future. You are in the right place at the right time if you would like to discuss potential zoning standards, districts, setback, or other regulations for data centers. That concludes my introduction to the issue, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So at this time, we're going to do comment across the board. If we have any board comment? Okay, go ahead.
Yep, so I want to thank everybody because I see some familiar faces that came out to the Planning Commission meeting last night. We heard some feedback. I think it was good feedback. And I went back through the ordinance a little bit, and I also think that some of the comments are addressed in our current ordinance. For example, there was one gentleman who mentioned making sure that we decommission the site appropriately and remove, for example, the underground, any underground gas containers or whatever is needed from there. And we have in here that we will, that they are responsible for the recycling and or disposal of everything that relates to that. We may be able to be a little more strong on that language, I'm not sure, but it is in there. And there were some other things in here, in some of the other comments that I think were good as well. Such as, what was it? Hang on. Like how much limit the fuel could be on site and things like that. But we don't have that particularly addressed. However, I think we have addressed a lot of the comments in here that we heard last night. And one of the questions was what can we do, if the operations, if they fail. And it was saying that we could, where was that? I underlined it. Bear with me for 1 second. It says if the initial monitoring or complaints include a probable violation, the township may require interim mitigation measures, which may include operational modifications. equipment limitations or temporary curtailment of specific noise-producing activities until compliance is demonstrated. So that went specifically to a question that was asked last night about how could we enforce some of this. So it is in here. That's not to say this is perfect, but I think that the Planning Commission and the Ordinance Task Force did a good job, and I want to thank them. And we can still change this, but I think it's important to get this out so that we get an ordinance in place.
Okay.
There's my comments.
So, yeah, I just want to say that I was part of that ordinance task force, and we took a lot of the information from the county model ordinance, from Westchester's ordinances, and we incorporated them. This is a living document. This will go before the county review board, and their comments will come back. We will look at their comments, we'll look at the public comments, we'll make any changes that we feel necessary at that time before we adopt this ordinance. So this is still in process, but we need to do something. Doing nothing will create greater problems for the community. So, do you have any comments?
I just want to specifically state that today's meeting in general, last night's meeting, there's so much miscommunication on social media. One of being today we were going to railroad something in because it's a morning meeting and we're going to sneak something in. We have a morning meeting once a month. We have an evening meeting once a month. The social media blitz about this is absolutely ridiculous. I've gotten calls for people saying that the one property is already broken ground. That's not the case. Nothing has happened. Nothing. We don't even have a plan in front of us right now. We are simply talking about a zoning issue which we have to do by law. That's it. And the miscommunication of social media has really stirred up the frenzy of everybody. Remember, we're no different than you. We all live in the township, and we all care about what's going to happen in our township.
It's going to hurt ultimately you too and your family.
Correct, correct. So anyway, I just wanted everybody to have an understanding that there's so much miscommunication going on right now online, and it's really, we don't ever have this many people in a meeting, and it's clear that when it's an important topic, everybody's here, but this is no more of an important topic than any other meeting is, and, you know, just for everybody to understand, nobody's broken ground on anything, nothing's been judged, nothing's been brought before the board. This is a zoning issue.
Okay. All right, so at this time, we'll go to the public. I'm going to pick this young lady here, if you would like to start.
Not very young, but appreciate that.
Right up, give us your name, give us your address, and then we'll go from there. She
Good
had an
morning.
arm up the whole time.
My name is Laura Saldana. I live at 210 Newland Drive, neighbors to you all, right around the corner. First of all, thank you to Board of Supervisors and the Planning Committee for last night. I know there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement, miscommunication across the board and social media. And I appreciate the slides and the work that's going into making the communication clear and precise. With that said, what I feel is missing after last night's meeting and the feedback from the community, I worked hard on last night to try and formulate an action plan for you that hopefully is just lift and drop into your existing draft. So there was noise, conversations about noise, conversation about water, and conversations about temperature and heat. This would cover in the sense of how co-location center and data centers operate. I've worked in big data for the last 25 years. And I've worked in data centers, I've sold data centers, and I've built for data centers. That also means that I've had to respond to compliance and RFPs and RFIs for data centers, for game changers such as Amazon, such as Salesforce, such as Google. And the types of questions they put into their RFPs for the properties that they apply to are not the types of requirements that the Montco Planning Commission or the Chesco Planning Commission have included, and any of the ordinances that have been proposed and drafted in Pennsylvania have included. This is an opportunity for East Brandywine to be a differentiator and set the bar for our green, higher standard for data centers, the same way California is doing. And to do that, to append your existing draft with the suggestions here that show exactly how you measure these things, that define exactly how the cooling systems work. We know what a dry town is, and we know what a wet town is. Data centers have that same opportunity. We could be a dry data center town where their data center does not require water, which solves the water problem. You can use something called dry cooling. It is innovative. Mitsubishi, Japan, and China are already using this technology. It is more efficient, and it is better thermally for the environment around it. These restrictions are built into the proposed particle ordinances here that you can lift and drop into the draft that you are bringing forward to Chester County. The other parts I'd like to address is on the compliance side and regulatory side of the house. So even in Governor Shapiro's proposal for advancing technology into here, he says, oh, there's these ISO certifications and various different standards. Those standards are great for manufacturing and businesses. We see what happened at PES down in Philadelphia. Even with all of those same ISO standards, they have to dig up the ground, and that land is completely desolate. We don't want that to happen here. That's bad, right? So if we can follow these green models, knowing what we know. By the way, there are some organizations out there that are green-focused data center consultants. I encourage you to look at those. But one particular ISO standard that I would encourage you to include is the in this printout that you have all been shared on your desks. Sorry, that's in the number 34. ISO IEC 30134, and it helps them regulate annual power usage effectiveness, energy reduction plans, because data centers start off with high electricity, but they become more efficient as they continue on. Kind of like you implement something and you're paying for your capex up front. Then as the years pass, your costs go down. But they have, through these standards, they have to prove that their costs are going down. They have to prove that they're running an efficient operation. And we're asking for transparency from the data center to us, the community, that they're following the path forward. And if we don't align that with them specifically now, then we're just creating more conversations, more meetings, and more work for later. I've been there. I've lived that sin before. Giving them a gentleman's handshake and CBRE or property level or commission level planning in a world that we haven't been in before isn't going to serve us in the long haul. So I encourage you to take a look at this document that I've shared to you and look at the details that are the requirements of these data centers for the properties in California, that are the requirements for the data centers when they get funding from green investors. So please, for my sake, for my children's sake, for our future's sake, please consider these. I've posted these on East Brandywine Happenings. I've also shared this electronically to the East Brandywine Township Facebook Messenger because it was midnight last night when I was doing this. And I've provided printed copies, and I have an open Google Doc if shared on AI if you like that link as well. But I know my time is probably up.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time that you put into this. Next comments? Would you like to make a comment?
Thank you all for listening to us. And my name is Kathy Patel. I live in 531 Kaiser Court, downtown Applecross community. And I just saw in audience that the data center is categorized light industrial Can you elaborate that, please?
I'll
I
turn
just saw
that.
that, why it's in a light industrial, in that, so I just wanna make sure that how come it falls into that category? It's not light industrial.
I think it's the only area that we have to accommodate that type of use, but I'll let Luke expand on that.
Let's address, so in my presentation, there was I made a point that we must provide for the use, and so we have to
So
make.
real quick,
Go ahead.
we gotta stress that, and I want everybody to read this slowly. According to Pennsylvania court doctrine dating back to 1960s, municipal zoning ordinance must provide for and may not exclude from the municipality. So everybody needs to focus on that statement. Must do it. Okay? So that's the first thing. I think that's important that we clarify
And
that out
I think her
loud.
question pertains to the location
The
and the classification.
Yes.
But I believe that is the heaviest classification we have related to industrial uses in the township, and I'll let Luke expand on
I
that.
personally feel that it doesn't, data center doesn't go in light industrial.
I don't believe we have any other
What-
existing.
May I inquire as to your preferred zoning for it to be
No,
located?
it's not that, it's like the data center categorized into light industrial.
Well, we don't have a heavy industrial zone in
Exactly,
the
but
township.
they are supposed to be in heavy industrial.
Well, we don't have one.
Can we create one?
Yeah.
What's involved in creating one?
And,
Well-
and that,
Need land to put it on.
if we don't have it,
What's
then
that?
we just reject it.
Here we put it on
Well,
Real
We-
quick
one
too.
foot by 1 foot square.
we really don't have the area or land left in the township to create a heavy industrial zone.
Exactly, that we don't
Well,
welcome that because
yeah,
it
so
doesn't
that-
sit
that
into
failed-
like
that
industry
fails the
category.
challenging court.
Right.
That'll fail the court challenge because we have to allow for the use. And so we have to put it somewhere that we have.
So that it is existing, so we have the existing and it's categorized as light because we really don't want heavy industrial use, but in any event, we have to comply with these requirements. So
Okay.
I'll let Luke
Right.
expand it
So
if he would like to comment.
What, generally what we're talking about is not, it's written somewhere in plain language, here's what's exclusive and here's what's not. It exists collectively through case law. But let's use a different example for the purpose of illustration and say,
Yes.
why are there no 50-foot high-rise residential complexes in East Brandywine Township? Because we provide for the use of residences. We do not have to provide for skyscrapers because we provide for residences. So your question, why don't we provide for heavy industry? It's because we provide for industry. I don't know that we want to provide for heavy
Not
industry.
understanding me. I'm
Okay.
saying that, okay, data centers, they are proposing it. We are putting into them into light industrialization. I'm saying data center itself is heavy industrial.
The
It's
land
like,
wouldn't
it
sustain
doesn't
it.
go in this zoning at all. Like,
Okay.
we don't want to welcome it because it's not light industrialism. It falls into the heavy industrialism category.
Where
in a
is,
first
where
place.
is the heavy industrial category?
Means, according to the way they're going to,
The nuclear power plant will have a mini one in
and they're going to produce all the air pollution, land pollution, water pollution. So I think in the first place that data centers are, I don't think they're falling into light industrialism category in the first place. Has to be a heavy industrialization category. You have to put it in there and you just don't welcome that and tell them this is a residential zone and we don't want that here at all.
Okay.
Because we're putting
Well,
into data
we have
centers
to get back-
into heavy industrialism.
Yeah, to the court
category.
challenge that would come from that approach.
Yeah.
So we have to consider that, so.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
right. I want to welcome everybody's comment, and I don't know that we want to start a precedent of and everyone having this dialogue so that we can get through the public comment. That said, we've started this conversation, so I want to address a couple matters. I think when people think about data center, I think we're all thinking hyperscale, very large data center. But the way we've defined data center is how a structure could be used, right? So there is such a thing as a small data center, just as there is such a thing as a large data center. Our code describes the geography where a data center could go. It describes a minimum lot size. It describes setbacks. Those things will control the scale of a data center should an application be arrived in East Brandywine Township.
Not necessarily, unless you include some of these restrictions. Then you're looking at a retail or a wholesale option. But without that, hyperscale can go in and it can go vertically.
The other thing that I've done a little bit of research on this is, and I could be totally, this is just research I've done. Some of these data centers are going to be miniaturized and put on houses, and it will be an individual house will carry the data center for a neighborhood, and it will be sold to that homeowner with the rights to that neighborhood. So you're going to see most likely these things start popping up, and I just want to point this out to people. You know, it's like generators for houses. It starts out as this, you know, monstrosity, and they've shrunk them down to the size of, you know, luggage. And in the future, I have a feeling that we're going to have this next issue arise, where people are going to want to put the miniaturized ones on their property, and then they get paid a stipend for using that service and allowing it to go to their neighbors. So it's large or small. It's an
If we
issue.
restrict it to industrial space, that scenario would be blocked.
And
Then you have the court challenge.
hang on, so
that you lose.
let me point this out. This is our zoning map, right? This is East Brandywine. We have a lot of residential. We have R1, R2, and R3. That's our residential, which makes up a good portion of our township. We have the mixed use, which I believe is currently, can I say what it currently is, that's owned by?
Well, there are multiple
There are
parcels in
multiple
mixed use.
parcels.
The spirit of mixed use is a more automobile-centric commercial community. So you can imagine Crops Fresh Market
Yep.
as appropriate in the mixed-use zone.
Yes. And then we have, can you explain IR real quick?
IR is short for institutional and residential combined. In the institutional zone, that is home to Delaware County Community College. So that is basically a community college campus.
So as you can see, this is East Brandywine, mostly homes, mostly residential, some commercial. The only place that we have that's is the light industrial zone, the CSLI district. There is no, I don't want to change personally. I don't
Yeah,
think we should be changing the zoning map to
We
change.
don't want to entice heavy industrial.
And can everybody see that on the map? That's that little spot down on the.
Yeah, in the bottom page.
Yes.
Correct.
And we have to allow for it.
That's
So
the
we
rule.
have to allow a place in East Brandywine for data centers. And I believe the best place is the CSLI district because everything else is residential for the most part, or commercial to support residential. And we have to allow it by the law, right? Like we just talked about that. And also, just because we're doing an ordinance doesn't mean we're getting a data center, right? We're doing this to help put controls in, to help control what we get. Because if this gets challenged in a court of law, if we don't allow for data centers and it gets challenged in a court of law, we lose all control.
The way you get a data center is say no data center, you'll get it. So we have to work with
Are
this.
you suggesting that if we keep it to
What-
light
Yeah,
industrial?
I'm sorry. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take control of the meeting here, because one at a time, and take the podium, give your name and address. So if you would like to speak, let's do it in that format so everyone can hear, the comments. And I appreciate everyone's wanting to make comment.
Morris, 210 Newland Drive. I just had a quick question, actually, what you're saying. Are you suggesting, and I agree with and follow what you're saying, but if we restrict it to the light industrial, and I know it's not on the agenda, the other question that's not right now is that one land that wants to maybe put something on the reach, allow data centers in the residential, right? That was secondary, not topic. But if we were to do that for light industrial, and it would help us in the other conversation, potentially, right?
That's correct.
Okay. That was-
I think this gentleman has a comment.
Morning, my name is Tom Davis. I live at 181 Hadfield Road. I don't mean to be flippant with this, but is there zoning for an airport, or is there zoning for mining?
I don't believe there is.
The reason I'm asking that is because I think I know the answer, and that is, well, we don't have it because it's not likely that anybody is going to propose that. So as long as it's not challenged, then we don't need to worry about it. Is that correct?
I believe that probably is.
Well,
correct.
if I may,
I'll leave that Tom,
Mr. Chairman,
Tom to answer that.
we don't know what somebody might come in with and file a challenge for.
Right.
We've attempted the best we can to permit somewhere in the township for all legitimate uses. My position is that we do provide for this use already in the township in the CSLI, but that topic will be explored at the curative amendment hearing.
Yeah. So just to reinforce my point from my own understanding, if somebody did come in and said they wanted to do some mining, you would have to consider that.
Absolutely.
Right, okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, I don't know what they would be mining for in this region, but
It's just my understanding, the reason that we can't exclude data centers is because someone wants to try to put one here, and that's a lawful thing. The airport and mining are hypotheticals that really don't exist, but that helps me with my understanding.
yeah.
The second question I had with respect to your comment about skyscrapers not being here because they're controlled by what now?
No, so it's hard for me to characterize what constitutes, what's the line for exclusionary zoning? That's a difficult question. That's one of the things that will be discussed in the hearing, because it's not black and white in the law, it's case law, and it's case by case, so it's hard. But what I wanted to illustrate in that comment was that providing for a use doesn't mean providing for all scales of that use. So in other words, we're not exclusionary because we have a height limit in East Brandywine Township, because we permit residential uses. Just because there's a height limit does not make us exclusionary to residential uses.
That's what I understand too.
Right, we don't have fire engines that can reach 100-story tall skyscrapers. So we can say we don't have 100-story, but we can't say there will be no houses in East Brandywine Township.
Is that logic being applied to the process for the data center to look for those types of things that can restrict it?
Precisely so.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
That's what the ordinance does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I may, I think everyone needs to know that there are other regulations that are applicable in the CSLI district, which applies to all uses that would be put in that district. And one is a height limit. So it's clear under zoning law that the township has the authority to regulate height of structures. And we've done that.
Comment regarding the social media. There are a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. But part of the problem for me, with respect to that, is that I'm looking on the town website for information about this, and the meeting, or the information that you presented in the beginning of the meeting was very helpful. But I could not find that information on the website. So when people can't find information on the website, they hear things, and then it's whispered down the lane, and the next thing you know is completely, so our recommendation is please try to put as much as you can in terms of information that helps.
Yeah, and there was a very good paragraph that Luke had put out on social media. I think it was earlier in the week, and I just copy and pasted that. I must have received 50 text messages about people with questions about it. I copy and pasted and said, oh, okay. And I think that was very at eastbrandywine.org, right, Luke?
Well, first of all, thank you for the feedback. I think it's important that you be aware that you're directing that feedback to the appropriate source, and that would be me. The communications or the lack thereof is on me, not on the members of the Planning Commission or the Board of Supervisors. So That's news to me, but yeah, I appreciate the feedback. And as to Supervisor Scribner's point, there was an update, was it Monday? It was Monday, and I appreciate Assistant Township Manager Stribney's initiative in getting that out.
And if I can
Mr.
address-
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may, I think it would, I mean, this is a time for public comment, and I think it would benefit the board to accept the comment, but I think we should try to not have a dialogue with the public in a public forum, because I can see where it may have negative impact.
Can I hear you, can I say one more thing, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
One thing, I hear you with the communication. I want to say also that we have a legal challenge before us, and so we are being careful with our communication so that we don't jeopardize anything. So that's all I'll say.
One more comment and a quick comment about zoning. Katie Booth last night suggested much larger setbacks, and you haven't presented what your details were yet, so maybe the question is answered. I wonder if you've taken it.
I believe it was presented to the Planning Commission.
Sorry.
She did present that to the Planning Commission as she spoke up here.
I just
So.
wondered how you took that into account.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of comments last night, so at this point, we're going to move forward, I believe, with what we have and let the county get back to us. So, and to Tom's point, we're going to limit comment as much as we can. I mean, we want to have dialogue with everyone, but I think we have to be careful. All right?
My last comment is, in looking at all this information, checking things out, your scale up there does not appear to be correct at all. I've used Tesco views and Google Maps, and the scale of the map here for 1 mile being that long is like 40% different in Google Maps and Tesco views.
Well, Chesco Views is not accurate, so don't rely on that.
Well,
And
Google
Google Earth is Google Earth. It's not accurate.
Well, I don't think that's correct, because even just aligning it with my property lines doesn't make sense. So I'm just asking somebody to take a look.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you very much.
All right. Are there any other comments before I go back to you? I'd like some other people to speak, and then we'll circle back.
Sam gave me, and I live in Applecross 596 Prizer Court. Where will the public hearing be held? Because it can't be held here. Because last time, most of the people were, like, there were enormous amounts of people, and people had to leave because it was very uncomfortable. So can we plan on having that public hearing at maybe in the auditorium of a local school? That would accommodate hundreds of people if they want to come and they have questions. What's the plan for the public hearing?
Well, we don't have a plan at this time.
So-
Related to what your comments are. So we can take that under advisement and we can have a discussion as we get closer to that. Right now, I don't have an exact date as to when that is supposed to take place. I believe in August sometime, so we have a month or so to plan if it reaches that point.
Okay, also I have a question because a lot of people came and they gave really helpful advice to make the ordinance tight and protect the citizens from the abuses of data centers that we've seen recorded in every single state, cities. People are dying. COPD, the rates of COPD when you have a hyper data center next to you is increasing. The water is being turning into sediment, like mud, slug coming out of water. People have to bring water hauled into their homes so they can cook, they can wash themselves, they can wash their children. We don't want this to happen here. We are also in a drought zone, even though it's not declared a drought, but we are at risk of drought. So the idea of a dry data center is something that we need to look into. So I know that you want to rush and present the draft of the revised ordinance, but there are factors that we need to include. If we rush through it, get it through, and then we end up with enormous problems, but it's not going to be any better than what we have now.
Yeah, this process is just to get it presented to the county.
So is there a plan to incorporate
Well-
the information and the advice given to protect the citizens?
We will take all comments into account. And again, we have not adopted this ordinance.
Okay, so
It's
there's a
as I
plan.
said earlier in the meeting, it's a living document, so we'll continue to kind of massage it and listen to everyone.
And then also one thing as well, the distance of the, if whatever proposed data center is in the future from residential neighborhoods. I remember yesterday they were saying it was about 250 feet or something. I don't remember, what was it?
250 miles.
250, what is it?
The setback's 250, it's 250.
250 miles?
250 feet.
Feet, okay, so
Miles, it's that, yes.
250.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Do it.
does this protect people? 250 feet away?
1,000 is the.
So can we
minimum.
please change that to at least 1,000 or 2,000 to protect the neighbors, the people living close to it, from the noise pollution, from the air pollution, because they do release toxins in the air. Among them is formaldehyde, which is a carcinogenic. So we don't want our children to be breathing it. So the farther they are from residential areas, the more protected we and our children will be. Right? We have elderly people, a lot of elderly people. We don't want our elderly to die and suffer or get really sicker than they actually are. So can we please ensure that it's at least 1,000 or 2,000 feet away from residential neighborhoods to protect us from that 250 feet? That is barely nothing, right? Who wants to be breathing those fumes? So please consider these. I know you live in this neighborhood and you live in this community, you want to protect your families, you have loved ones, and we are advocating on behalf of our loved ones as well. So please consider us as you're putting it together. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, I think we have one more that did not speak yet, and we have a gentleman in the back who wants to speak, and I think Spud wants to speak, so, and then we'll get back to you, I promise.
Bonnie Nye, 454 Holland Court. I had an opportunity to speak last night, and I have to say, I think for all of us, this is a microcosm of what's going on in so many ways, that there's just so much information, and things are happening so fast, it's very hard to keep up. And a lot of the issues and the communication issues have reflected that as well. I just think it's the times, and it's difficult. And I so appreciate the zoning, the planning commission, their work. I think, and they certainly have taken into account some of the other local documents that have been given to them. When I spoke last night, I'd only had an hour at home to look at the document because it only came out yesterday afternoon. So based on that, I was trying to research a background for this. But overnight, I also spent multiple hours on the computer, just to chat GPT, which the irony of that I
Let's all throw our cell phones away.
Just a quick chat GPT search for health concerns and whatever led me to say the things I said yesterday were not robust enough.
Yeah.
The things I asked for were not robust enough. And we have some, we're so fortunate. We're a wonderful, diverse community, and we have so many smart people here. And here we have some people who really have a lot of experience with this. But I understand the time constraints that are really important here to get something forward, and also appreciate the delays in getting something back and getting something in the zoning laws. But I would beg you all to challenge the Planning Commission to go back and look for more robust zoning, which I think is really what you're saying as well. This is not what you have in front of you to consider today from them is not robust
It's
enough.
not compatible with the technology.
Yeah, and it as it exists has so many potential for legal loopholes that it would leave us quite open, I think, to potential disaster if someone would move ahead, and that may never happen. So, and the sad news is all of this is on the shoulders of a township to have to bear the burden of doing it. That the shame of the lack of more national planning in regards to this is playing out right here in front of us, which is really sad. But anyway, I was really we should be using octave band limits. We should be We should have tonal penalties, we should have pre-construction acoustic models done. We should, and all of this should be on the shoulders of the developer, not on the shoulders of the township, not at our expense.
Okay.
Measurement protocols should be stricter. It goes on and on. The setbacks are probably not adequate enough. The construction is really not even dealt with. There's construction guidelines that can help with a lot of the problems that everyone is concerned about in terms of the materials that are used in the construction and how they're used, the height, the sight lines. There's some mention of this in their current document, but it's not nearly robust enough. And I think we will be looking at probable court problems by not having a more robust document. So setting something forward now is great. To the point, this is a living document. That does not say we can't immediately sit down and look at more robust things and then incorporate them as soon as we feel comfortable with that.
Well, that will be in the process, once we hear back from the county, and we'll take this document.
Do we need to wait for?
No, we'll work in the meantime.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
every time we wait for things,
Yeah, no,
that's
no.
already been a problem. We've been at this
It's
for
good
18
information
months.
that's coming out from everyone. We certainly will take all this into account as we move
Because I think
forward.
That's really what is necessary.
Yeah.
Is unfortunately more work, but necessary.
We
Thank you.
appreciate your comments. Thank you. Gentleman in the back, I believe? Yes, sir.
Hi, Gaurang Patel on 412 Norland Drive in Applecross. I'll keep it brief. So I get it that this is not about the application for the rezoning or whatever, but that we have to discuss allowing data centers, which we have to do. I only read the track changes yesterday and this morning, and a couple things about that document that I think are important to massage and tweak, whatever. There's a couple places in there that say that remediation efforts must be completed within 90 days. I think what would probably be helpful is to make it very explicit, clear, that the data center gets shut down within 90 days until remediation is shown to be effective. Because data centers, they're not hospitals, they're not schools. They can be shut down. All the processing can be diverted elsewhere. So, that's not something that is a difficult measure to implement within the code. Something else, people mentioned the setbacks. I think that's legitimate and a very good idea. What I didn't see in there, I saw a lot about sort of being green, about energy efficiency and things like that. I'm sure that they'll have some sort of battery backup systems or solar panels, whatever they decide to do. I think we've all seen in the press and elsewhere, depending on the type of batteries used, they can be very hard to put out. So if they put massive batteries in, you're putting the fire department at risk. Because if they're not able to put the fires out, if there's an issue with the battery backup, there's a significant risk placed to the fire department. Similarly, we live we have to admit, there's a lot of cyber threats and physical threats and terrorist data centers are more likely to be targets for this type of action. Do we want to put our police in jeopardy over something where additional security measures need to be put into a data center? Why should that be the township's problem? I think the code should be written that the security measures put in place at a data center are sufficient to mitigate some of these more substantial risks of, I don't want to create fear, but I think we can all safely assume that we're going to put targets in our backs with certain types of technology being put into place. So this is the time, if we're going to be proactive and sort of take the lead as a township in showing that, yes, we have to abide by the law and consider legal uses. We'll consider them. But for those legal uses to be safe in our township, there are probably additional measures that we need to put in. And really it comes back to protecting our civil servants, even the fire department, the police officers. I don't care if I can stream Netflix any faster or not. If we're going to put our own people at risk over this, let them build it elsewhere. We considered it, put all these mitigations in, I think we're good. I think we can withstand any legal challenge. I would be frightened to live here if these mitigations weren't put into place. And I think, you know, people don't want to have their township viewed in a way that their own residents fear living there. And I don't think that's what this community wants. I don't think our police officers, fire, you know, fighters want to do any of that. So this is your opportunity. It's your opportunity to be seen as the township that followed the rule of the law, but also stood up for its own citizens. That's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the comments. Yes, Bud?
I'm trying to come lately to this, Bud Bruton and Hatfield Road. Have anyone considered, make sure you look into when you're revising this on the aviation side of things. Rotary wing aircraft, whether they're manned or unmanned, are going to be the future here. And consequently, if we can address that issue, that we're going to limit it or create areas that they can do that, because it's been around for years and it's going to come, and we know that's how we're getting our deliveries. And I'm amazed at how quickly Prime can deliver my thing that I ordered in no time at all. It may be coming from the air, so you need to address that, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think this will be our last comment. And one thing I wanted to suggest, and Jim Bucksala was here, but he's gone now, but I'd like you to share your document with him.
I have one more copy for him.
He's the chairman of the planning commission. Okay, so, but I don't see him here anymore, but when you run into him,
You can get it.
you give
Who is this?
Jim Bucksala. He was the gentleman that chaired the meeting last night.
I can give it to him.
Yeah, we'll make sure.
Mara Saldana, 210 Newland Drive. Luke, may I ask you to go back to the slide where you had the what we're here for table and the bottom 2 rows on that?
Sure.
Slide 7.
Quick transition.
Perfect. In public participation opportunities.
Gonna get full screen. Pause.
Gotta love it. So, if you wish to comment on row number 4, how the township should regulate data centers in the future. This is the appropriate forum, and last night is the appropriate forum. Thank you, Emily, for opening with what you updated from the feedback last night.
We just to be clear, we didn't update.
Oh.
It was, because it was literally a couple hours, right? There's
Right.
a process. But I went in and I looked to see if I could see the questions that I heard, or some of them.
So I think collectively as a community, and somebody, you guys can give me a thumbs down if I'm wrong, but collectively as a community, we're seeking our elected officials to update the draft before it goes to Chester County with these inputs.
May I comment on that, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
please.
If the board recommends that this be sent for 247 review, and we don't make any changes to it, this possibly could be enacted by the second meeting in July. If we go back to the drawing board, it will delay that process for 2 or 3 or 6 months. I don't know how long it will take. But in the meantime, if somebody files an application in the CSLI zoning district today, there will be no specific regulations on data centers. So it's, from my point of view, it's imperative that we get something, and the something is this, enacted as soon as possible. So that if somebody makes an application in the CSLI, we have regulations in place. I think what I heard the board say this morning is the board will consider the comments that you made and some of these other folks made, which I personally appreciate. The board's not dismissing them. The important thing is to get something on the books as soon as possible So, and it may not be perfect, I acknowledge that. The committee worked hard on this. I think what I'm hearing is we'll continue to work on it. It doesn't mean, this is not etched in stone. It can be amended quickly if need be. But again, from my point of view, we need to get something enacted ASAP.
Thank you.
Excuse me, she's given you all something.
I did the work.
But we can't just,
When you say you're not dismissing things.
Sir?
No.
so you're willing to wait 2 more months?
May I ask a follow-up question?
You had that paper on your desk right
But that still involves going back
You
to the
have to go
planning
back
commission
through
next
the
month.
review process. It has to be a public event. It's really time consuming. I mean,
The devil is in the details.
Yeah.
You must understand that the municipality's planning code has a procedure that we must follow to enact zoning ordinance amendments. If we don't follow that procedure, the ordinance can be challenged as invalid just based on the procedural defects. So we're trying to follow the procedure as quickly as we can and get an ordinance enacted.
My Six Sigma training, as a process princess, I can appreciate that. My follow-up question is, with this getting, but the hypothetical is that the Chester County approves it, as it stands, gets set in stone as of July 3rd?
Well, Chester
Thursday?
County doesn't approve
They don't
anything.
approve it.
They just make comments.
Okay.
And
so
they send them back to
that-
us to consider, and at that time, we can incorporate their comments, we can incorporate your comments.
the
And
revision
then we
happens
put that
at that
document
point.
back together, and then we adopt that.
Well, but it would go, if the Chester County Planning Commission makes comments and we amend this ordinance, we have to start the cycle
We
again.
have to send it back to them.
We have to go back to the planning commission, we have to go through the review
Okay,
process.
so the most efficient path forward to incorporate the feedback is what you're moving forward with. And my question
Well, it has
is-
to be voted on.
Right.
Yeah, we
I
have
don't
it.
vote on
Right,
it.
the process, sorry, not the actual thing. My question is, while this activity is happening for the approvals and so on and so forth, can an applicant come in because we're not moving fast enough?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll reiterate,
have-
I'm
Ma-
sorry to interrupt, but if an applicant came in this afternoon
Mm-hmm.
and filed an application for a data center in the CSLI
LI.
district, we would have no regulations, and these regulations would not apply to that proposal.
And if they
Because
came
the-
in.
The way the law works is the ordinances which are in effect when your application is filed apply. After enacted ordinances do not apply.
Right. When the ordinance gets enacted and the applicant then comes in, the ordinance that gets enacted is the ordinance that sticks to that applicant. But if the ordinance is amended thereafter, and that applicant still hasn't, say, broken ground, what ordinance applies? The amended or the previous?
An ordinance or an amendment which is enacted after the applicant files a land development plan does not apply.
Thank you.
I think you have a question back
Yeah,
there?
can we use the municipal?
Can you come up to the
amendment?
podium, please? Thank you. Just give us your name and address.
Hi, Chris Blumenfeld, 233 Sills Lane.
Thanks.
I'm just wondering about the municipal curative amendment.
We cannot use that at this point because the applicant already filed a
Okay.
curative amendment application.
So we got it under that. Okay. The second question is, has anyone addressed the light pollution?
The zoning ordinance has pretty strict standards already about lighting.
Okay.
So as I said earlier, the general regulations applicable in the township apply to all applications.
Got it. And then these ones we're working on now will be added to that in case of data centers.
Correct. If this ordinance is enacted as presented, these regulations would apply to data center uses.
Okay. So the light pollution, it's already written into the code somewhere.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, oh, yes, sir. Come up.
Bruce Cater, 450 Holman Court. I'm a new kid to the block. Lived in many different states. I think what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this is a legal situation. Right? Quite familiar with legal. We have, Mr. Public Safety, no offense to this, we have a gun against our head, don't we?
You can say it, we can't.
Okay. We have a gun against our head, that's what I'm hearing. If we take a minute and pause, we look at technology, we're not stopping technology. It's coming down the trail, it's coming down the tracks fast and furiously.
Genie's out of the bottle. The genie's out of the bottle.
That is correct. The horse is out of the barn. I'm the last of the baby boomers. I remember 5th grade, 6th grade, my neighbor got a calculator. A calculator?
Texas Instruments.
Thank you. Yes. So as we evolve, I just want you to kind of put that into perspective. We look at this, we don't know what we don't know. Bottom line. Kudos to all of you. You are not in an enviable position. Not at all. But that being said, we all have a job to do, right? So the data center is very similar to those as a baby boomer. When I went to college, there was mega rooms that housed these mega computers to fund one computer that I could use. This is what's happening. The challenge, I think, that is before us, whether this goes through or not, I'm not taking a side on it. We have to deal with what we have to deal with. Let's assume, this is only an assumption, that the data center gets put into this proposed place. And technology, as we all agree, is evolving. That data center is going to be quite a footprint. And as technology gets innovated, the footprint starts to miniaturize, right? We all know that that's how we work. So my concern is, if this does go to the next level and they put, brick and mortar facility there, what happens when we're gone? That data center's gone. It's been stripped. Everything that was there has been stripped. So I throw that out to you just as a precautionary measure. Again, you are not in an enviable position. Neither one of us are in a good position here. But we do, and I understand from the legal perspective, and I'm addressing right to you, we do have to do something, right? And I think with all this good information that's come across, it's good information. Repetition is the mother of learning. The more we hear, the more we learn. We can never stop learning more. So I commend all of you. That's my commentary. I can't put it in the capsule any better, but the genie is out of the bottle. That was your word. And the horse is out of the barn. We got to look at this and we got to do a deep dive. We just don't have the time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you have another
Yeah,
comment?
just a quick question. Luke, if you can, everything you guys have been saying, especially legally, it's an opportunity like to stimulate all the kind of rhetoric, like I don't know what's going on. It's really good information, like the timing and the process that a lot of us just don't know. I don't know any of this, what you're saying, we got a process, we got a timing. If there's any way you can share some of this stuff through the communications, I think that'd be incredibly helpful. That's all.
I appreciate the feedback. And speaking of communications, part of the reason why we're asking everybody to stand at the lectern when they talk sorry to put you on the spot, is not because you can't hear people in this room, it's because people at home won't hear you when they watch the video on YouTube that
Because
we're
there's
gonna
no
post of this
microphone.
meeting.
Yeah, no, that's just for you.
That's just for me. All right. Well, then I will summarize what you said for those who may not have heard it because you weren't at the lectern. There was some good advice to me. Thank you.
Okay, all right, at this time, I think we're gonna move on to this ordinance and resolution for consideration, referral of draft ordinance regarding data center uses for Chester County, Act 247 review. At this time, do I get a motion to approve this to go to 247 review?
So moved.
Do I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, now we have public comment. Thank you for being so patient.
But all of this is relevant to me too, being a member of this community,
Yes.
particularly Brandywine over the past 6 years. So I think maybe, I understand a lot what's been going on. Part of it is our community isn't dedicated yet. I understand the nuances of why there's a delay in dedication. So maybe my questions go more to our new chief of police. Hello, Barrio, Anson, Frizia. And this is all with Mapleview. The speeding, the way, I even understand how PennDOT sets in, you know, a speed limit of 25, but the speeding in our neighborhood, if you could just sit on my lawn and hang out with me for a day, I think your jaw would drop. And we have the issue that we're not dedicated, so officers can't necessarily ticket, okay? We talked to her, maybe if an officer was, I mean, I feel terrible even saying this, of how, if there could be more of a presence in the community somehow. We have 2 private shoot-offs, which is Sugar Maple and Paper Bark. That is private, it connects to what will be the future public street of Glory Maple. That can, you can be tucked back there and see people. The picture it where you're trying to go from Paper Bark and either floor it up to get up the hill to get to 322, or the opposite. Maybe you're not paying attention and you're going pretty fast, turning off or coming from the Applecross community, and you're coming down really fast. And you're not necessarily being considerate of putting down to 25 miles per hour. I mean, if I have people doing 30, 35, I'm a happy woman. We have people that floor it, and I don't even understand it. We're all kids at the bus stop, and because the bus doesn't even have their lights on yet, or the stop sign out, now gratefully school will be over, or is over, they want to beat that bus to get up or down. And it's just like a little straightaway that almost encourages it for some people. Maybe some people are just not paying attention. They're tired, you know, coming home in the afternoons, but it is brutal. It does affect me more personally because of where I'm situated in the community. I get to feel it every single day, where I have a whole system of how I put my hazards on. I'm paying attention to all corners. I may be pulling in my driveway sideways to let somebody come past me who's not paying attention, so I can either back in or pull front ways into my driveway. But it does affect pretty much that whole strip until you get to the curve past Paper Bark. A couple people didn't slow down at the curve. It got a little, you hear horns honking and screeching, because it's just like, it can get a little messy. And maybe it's a little more during those rush hour times in the morning and the afternoon, or later afternoon. And then we have the parking situation, because since we're not dedicated, we're not ticketing people that are parked on our street. Our street, once it's dedicated, is not allowable for parking. I guess this is the roads master too. But people are parking. We might have 10 cars parked, which will be illegal once we're dedicated. So I understand we're kind of stuck in this catch-22. It was mentioned before about once we're dedicated, maybe we could have one of those flashing signs that says, hey, you're going over the speed limit. I welcome it to be on my property in front of my house if it needs to be. But I understand that's not something that can be provided to us as a community due to the fact that we're not dedicated. I'm just trying to be proactive instead of reactive. People are in the community walking their dogs, having their children play ball. You know, you could argue in hindsight, maybe there were certain things that weren't really thought through when this community was put in. I'm grateful to be a member of East Brandywine, but I'm just trying to, I don't know, I feel it every single day, morning to night, weekends. If there's anything else that kind of you can put in place, let alone once we're dedicated other options that may or may not come to fruition as far as speed calming devices and things like that. Don't that tables till later, I understand that.
From a planning perspective, and as I look at this and taking your comments in, I'm looking at Glory Maple. For me, I believe that we should consider having 3-way stops where it comes off of 322 to that first street and where it comes off of North Guthriesville Road to that first street. If you have 3-way stops there, it calms everybody down, and then at that point they go to the next stop.
Yeah, it would be
And
a
that
big
would deal
difference.
with what your concerns are. But I don't know how that would be implemented or how that would be done, but I believe from a planning perspective, that would solve the problem and probably should be strongly considered, in
And
my
that's
view.
something, again, my own little research, not just a Google, but looking at PennDOT sites and the history of different things legally, like,
Well,
I understand that could be an option. Our previous roadmaster had made comment that maybe that's something can trigger an assessment from PennDOT, which can be a little sticky also, because you're adding stop signs or speed, or adding some
I
of the
think,
speed limit
I,
change.
stop, yeah, that's just that's my take, just looking at
Right.
the project and looking at the plan. If I was designing it, they would have been in there
Stop
from the
signs would be
beginning.
fabulous. Yeah.
I could,
Would you like me to make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is we kind of have to divide this into two different issues. The problem now being speed without dedication. Unfortunately, we can't cite, you are correct. We cannot enforce parking regulations until that's dedicated. I believe the expectation is to dedicate it during this calendar year is kind of what we're looking at. So we do have a planning process. I also have a sergeant in charge of traffic. That we set details monthly and we monitor and we chart the speeds and volume, just so we get a handle, because sometimes it's a volume issue, sometimes it's a speed issue. Very often, it's both of those issues, right? And I agree with you. I think presence alone is enough to deter speed. So although we cannot cite, we could definitely show a presence in the area. And I ask our officers to maybe do their reports in someone's driveway, because seeing a cop car slows you down. We also have a towable speed sign that collects volume and speed data. I would like to get your contact information prior to you leaving, and maybe we could park that on your front lawn and get some of that data. So there are things I could do for you in the interim and prior to the roadway being dedicated. After dedication, we will be enforcing speed in that area
And we've had this uncommon delay for other issues going on, which I'm very attuned to. So, but that's why I was like, I've been here, it'll be 6 years in August, and I'm like, oh, we need to do something.
Well, we want to do whatever we can within the confines of the law to
Understood.
make the community safer and make the residents happy.
Yep.
So
No, I appreciate
we
it,
can work
definitely.
together as a team and get some spots to park.
I know I'm-
There is some parking issues for us in that.
Yeah,
in
and
that
that'll be
development.
forever.
So
Yeah.
if you're willing to allow us to park in your driveway or put our speed trailer in your front of your house, that would be very helpful. Maybe we can
Fabulous.
mitigate these issues to get us to dedication, and then we could do some enforcement
All right,
activities.
thank you, yeah, just
Thank you
wanted to
so
kind of
much
bring
for
it, there's so
coming.
many other important things going on, but I was like, this is a little something that can be a little proactive, would be helpful,
Yeah.
just in case.
No, it's the little
See
things
some
that
things.
matter every day,
Yeah,
right?
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Get that information to you.
Thank you. Are there
thank
any
you.
other comments on non-agenda items? Comments that I have, I think last night at the meeting, towards the end, Chairman Buck Sala had mentioned that they would be looking at some ordinances related to historic resource protection standards. We will additionally be looking at historic resource impact study requirements, standards, and triggers as well. At this time, notices there was no executive sessions held prior to this meeting. There will be an executive session following the foundation meeting that will be coming forward. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Yes, sir.
A friendly amendment, we need to announce the purpose of an executive session. The
Yes.
purpose of the executive session is for personnel matters.
Yes, I forgot that.
Make a
Thank you
motion-
very much.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today.